Hello everyone, this is Mittali More and we are here to discuss about cyber laws. The series consists of 6 lectures wherein the first consists of cyber laws, the other 2 talks about Information Technology Act 2000 and the remaining 3 talks about cybercrime. So let's get started. Now let's see the content synopsis. This lecture consists of introduction of cyber law, what is cyber law, the meaning and the definition of cyber law, history of cyber law, how the term cyber law came into existence, why is cyber law important in India, and last is jurisprudence of cyber law. Okay, now let's start with the introduction of cyber law. Now, before understanding what is cyber law, why is cyber law important, let us understand what is cyberspace. Because the term cyberspace came into existence, because of which the term cyber law exists. Okay, so what is cyberspace? Now, be it banking, shopping, texting, or eating, earning, or learning, everything is just a click away from us, right? If we want to eat something, what we do is just take out our mobiles, go on a website, order the food that we want to eat, and just pay online, and the food comes to you, isn't it? It's just a click away, right? So, this is what is called as digitalized world. That is, the world is getting digitalized day by day, which means we have created a separate technological world distinct from the world where we live in. Which means around us we have created a separate world. And this is known as cyberspace. The digitalized world that is created, that is generated around us by ourselves is called as cyberspace. Now, the term cyberspace was initially introduced by William Gibson. William Gibson was the person who firstly, for the first time, initiated or introduced this word called as cyberspace in his book in 1984. The book name was Neuromancer. Neuromancer was the book in which William Gibson in 1984 introduced the term cyberspace for the first time. And the laws that govern the cyberspace or the cyber world focusing on the acceptable behavioral use of the technology, including computer hardware and software, the internet and the networks, is known as cyber law or IT laws. Okay, let's move further. And now, let's understand what is cyber law, the exact meaning and the definition of cyber law. So what is cyber law? Cyber law is the area of law that deals with the internet's relationship to technological and electronic elements, including computers, softwares, hardwares, and information systems. The cyber law deals with everything that is related to the technological and electronic elements. Let it be computers or softwares or hardwares or any information systems which we use day to day. Okay, cyber law is a part of the overall legal system that deals with the internet. It is a part of an overall legal system. Look, it consists of the entire legal system which deals with internet. And then that covers the entire cyberspace that is been created by us. So what is written as cyber law is a part of overall legal system that deals with the internet, cyberspace and their respective legal issues, covering a fairly broad area of several subtopics, including freedom of expression, access to and usage of internet and online privacy. It consists of the online privacy, the freedom of speech and expression. Now, being a legal student, we know how important freedom of speech and expression is to us, isn't it? So, this includes anything and everything, which includes freedom of speech and expression. It includes access to and usage of internet, how much to use the internet, how much is accessible to be used, everything. And it also provides us with online privacy. Now let's move further and let us now discuss about the history of cyber law in India. Now when it comes to history is something that most of us, not everyone, there are some people who just love history, but most of us, when it comes to history, it's like, oh God, why this history and all? We live in this existing world, and why we need to know about history and all, isn't it? But to know about history is very much important, because why the law is in existence is something which we should know. Okay, now let's move towards the history of cyber law in India. Now, if we see about cyber law, so before 90s, like in 80th century and all, there was no need of cyber law. But when it comes to 90th centuries, that too in mid-90s, the world started getting globalized. The world has started getting globalized. And the globalization started with the computerization. Okay, how? So from mid-90s, the world saw an growth in globalization and computerization, with more and more nations computerizing their governance. What means? The persons from the paperwork were starting to convert the paperwork into a digitalized work. All the paperworks are now digitalized. If we go in a bank to open a bank account, we just need to fill one form, and everything and anything, that is, every information regarding us is now been fed in a computer. There is no file. In early times, there used to be a file which was been maintained by the bank. If we deposit any check, there was a receipt, and the receipt was then stored in a file by the bank. But now, now what does the bank do? The bank, when we go and deposit our money, it automatically gets fed in the account, the statement. So everything now is getting digitalized. Okay. So with more and more nations computerizing their governance and e-commerce seeing an enormous growth, in 1996, of the usage of internet, the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law brought into existence the model law on e-commerce to spread legal uniformity globally. So then soon India became the 12th country to legitimize cyber regulations. India was the 12th country who legitimized cyber regulations. To legitimize, what does legitimize means? Legitimize simply means to validate the regulations of cyber law. So India was the 12th country to validate the regulations of cyber law. The Ministry of Commerce in 1998 created the first draft, and soon the revised Information Technology Bill was passed in May 2000. So this was the history of cyber law in India, of course. So let's move further and see why is cyber law important in India. There are various reasons why we need cyber laws in India. A number of reasons are there why we need cyber laws in India. But the mainly 5 reasons why we need cyber law in India is first is intangible dimensions. Now what is intangible dimensions? See, if we see towards the laws which are existent, that is the traditional laws which are still existing, let's see IPC, these are the traditional laws which are going on since 18th century and all, isn't it? But are those laws capable of covering cyber issues or the issues which are now day by day increasing? Isn't it? Those laws now have the provision, but it is also after the implementation of the Information Technology Act 2000. Okay, that has amended, or that because of that Information Technology Act, the IPC laws are also IPC or the other relevant laws are also amended. Those are the traditional laws. Okay, so the traditional laws were not competent enough to cover the ambient of intangible dimensions. So to cover the entire world or the laws, see now here if we talk about the internet or the cyber laws or the cyber space. Now our cyber space is not confined to the boundaries. This is boundaryless. From here, sitting in India, we can call in Germany, we can call in UK, we can call in US, isn't it? It's not like sitting in India, we cannot connect to the foreign countries. We can connect to anywhere at any point of the world, at any place in the world, isn't it? So there is no boundary fixed in this case, isn't it? So our traditional laws were not that competent to cover the entire world space, isn't it? So what we needed was cyber laws. The reason why cyber laws came into existence was the intangible dimensions of the cyberspace. Okay. The second point is millions of users. Now, if we see in cyber laws, why cyber laws are necessary? Now, in our cyberspace, suppose now take an example, like me. I'm having my own cyberspace. Now, you are there. You are having your own cyberspace. In the same way, your family members, they are having their own cyberspace. In the same way, your friends are having their own cyberspace. Their family members are having their own cyberspace. In short, in today's world, there are n number of people and each and every person is having their own cyberspace, isn't it? So there are millions and trillions of users of the cyber. Cyber means of the internet service, isn't it? So there are so many users. Now, how to keep a watch or how to restrict them? For that reason, we need cyber law in India. Okay, they're hard to maintain security. Now, you only imagine when there are this number of people using cyber or the internet facility, it is so difficult to maintain the security there are a number of frauds which are taking place. The fraud is day by day increasing, isn't it? We come to know the fraud through virus. There are many other ways wherein the fraud has been committed. So it's so hard to maintain the security. And so to a little bit or to ease it and to try to maintain security in the cyberspace, we need cyber laws. So cyber law is very much important. Why? To maintain a proper security, to maintain a security of the account that we are using. Okay. Now the fourth point comes as legal authority. What is legal authority? Why is legal authority important? Many of you might be thinking, why legal authority? Isn't it? See, if something happens to your account gets hacked. Okay, now if your bank account gets hacked, the money gets off, isn't it? Now what will you do? You need some legal authority to whom you can approach, isn't it? You need some person, you need some authority to whom you can approach when it comes to a fraud, when it comes to a cheating, when it comes to any such thing which happens and which is disturbing your freedom, which is violating your freedom. So, to have a legal competent authority, we need cyber law in India. Okay. And the last point is hard to identify the crime. Now, cyber crimes takes place nowadays because we have cyber law. Because nowadays many of the people are aware about what is cyber, what is internet. Many of the persons are now used to use cyber or the use of internet, isn't it? Now many persons know what is cyber crime, but previously many persons were not aware of what is internet, what is online banking, what is online shopping, what is online this, online that. Nowadays, the people are getting aware day by day. For that awareness and for that reason, we needed a cyber law in India. Now, the people come to know, because we have a cyber law, the people come to know about the crime. So, before it was very hard to determine or very hard to identify the crime called as a cyber crime. But the moment a cyber crime act or an act on a cyber law came into existence, the people came to know about, oh, there is something called a cyber crime. The people started getting aware when the act came into force. So, this is the reason why cyber law is very much important in India. So, what were the reasons cyber law is important? First is intangible dimensions. Second is millions of users. Third is hard to maintain security. Fourth is legal authority. And the fifth one is to identify the crime. Okay. Moving further. Now let's move towards Jurisprudence of Indian cyber law. Now, jurisprudence is the word which is very much important for the student who is a law graduate or a person who belongs to the field of law. How? You might be having a subject called as jurisprudence, isn't it? Jurisprudence is something which is very much important. Jurisprudence means a legal system or a philosophy of law or a theory of law, which says why the law is in existence or how the law took changes. What was the first law? Then how it started changing day by day is something called as the Jurisprudence of Indian cyber law. Now, what is written is the primary source of cyber law in India is the Information Technology Act 2000. The IT Act, which was passed in the year 2000, which came into force on 17th October 2000. On 17th October 2000, the Act came into force. And the Act was presented in the Parliament. We saw in the first slide was in May 2000. Okay. The primary purpose of the Act is to provide legal recognition to electronic commerce and to facilitate filing of electronic records with the government. The Act also penalizes various cyber crimes and provides strict punishment, which is imprisonment term up to 10 years and compensation up to rupees 1 crore. So the maximum punishment which can be given under the cyber law or under the Information Technology Act 2000 is the imprisonment for the term of 10 years and compensation up to rupees 1 crore. The IT Act was amended by the Negotiable Instruments Act 2002. The IT Act was then amended by the Negotiable Instrument Act 2002. This introduced the concept of electronic checks and truncated checks. Now, what is truncated checks? Truncated checks means the checks which are in physical forms are converted into an electronic form. Okay. So, the IT Act was amended by the Negotiable Instrument Act 2002, which introduced the concept of electronic checks and the truncated checks. On the same day, the Information Technology Act rules 2000 also came into force. The Information Technology rules also came into existence on the same day. These rules prescribe the eligibility, appointment, and working of certifying authorities. These rules were amended in 2003, 4, and 6. Now, these rules brought a concept of certifying authorities. Okay. The appointment of the certifying authorities, the eligibility, the person who can be a certifying authority, how the certifying authority can be appointed, and the working of the certifying authority. So, and then further that these rules were also amended in 2003, 4, 6, and now the Information Technology Act 2000 is in existence with all these amendments and procedures. Okay, so this was the Jurisprudence of Indian law. With what is the Jurisprudence of Indian law stated? It stated that the primary source of cyber law in India was Information Technology Act 2000, which came into force on 17th October 2000. Then the primary purpose of the Act is to provide legal recognition. Legal recognition to what? To electronic commerce and to facilitate filing of electronic records with the government. Then it stated about the punishments, that the maximum punishment can be given was imprisonment of 10 years and compensation up to rupees 1 crore. Further, it stated that the IT Act was amended by whom? By the Negotiable Instrument Act 2002, and that what it introduced? It introduced the concept of electronic checks and truncated checks. On the same day, also, what came into force? The Information Technology Rules 2000 came into force, and these rules prescribed the eligibility, appointment, and working of the certifying authorities, and which means a new concept called as certifying authorities came into force, and then the rules were further amended in 2003, 4, and 6. So this was something about jurisprudence. Now let's do a quick revision about what we learned today. First, we learned about the cyberspace. What is cyberspace? Cyberspace means we have created a separate technological world which is distinct from the world we live in. Correct? Then, cyber law. Cyber law is the area of law that deals with the internet's relationship to technological and electronic elements, introducing computers, software, hardware, and information systems. Then, what we learned? We learned India became the 12th country to legitimize cyber regulation information technology bill, and which was passed in which year? In May 2000. Okay. Then we learned about the importance. Why is cyber law important? It is important because of these 5 points. Which are those 5 points? Intangible dimensions, millions of users, hard to maintain security, legal authority, and hard to identify the crime. And last but not the least, we learned in jurisprudence that the Information Technology Act 2000 has the access or has the permission which can provide strict punishments, that is the imprisonment term up to 10 years and compensation up to rupees 1 crore. So this was something about cyber law, and thank you and see you in the next lecture, the lecture which talks about the Information Technology Act 2000. Thank you.